Braxcast time once again, guys. This is the 96th episode of the Braxcast, and while there isn't too much Rippaverse news, there is some Rippasend news. A Daughter's Revenge will be getting into that, but I do have some unfortunate news. Caro Brown, the executive editor and writer of Dirty Deeds, is unfortunately dealing with cancer. She does have breast cancer. I have a link to the Give, Send, Go in the description, so you can read a little bit more about that. And if you can support her. And hopefully she has her family and all of her coworkers in the community to support her and she gets through this okay. But just didn't want to bury the lead or not say this. Hopefully she gets through this. It's an unfortunate situation, but hopefully she will pull through. We also have the closeout of the first crowdfund for the Rippaverse. This is Rippaworks, which was launched in December of last year. We had the animation crowdfund, and it closed at $93,316 with 712 supporters. Just missing that second goal to get a good amount of short clips animated. We are going to get some more Rippaverse animation guaranteed in the coming months, but we didn't hit any of those really big goals, and of course we didn't get that million where we've gotten the full launch of the Rippaverse animated universe, which would have been a really cool thing. But still, I don't think this is quite anything to sneeze at, and it definitely is indicative that there are people who are willing to throw money at the Rippaverse for some pretty cool animations, and hopefully the same thing will be for video games. You can have a similar amount, like $50,000 to $100,000. You get a very simple, something like a Double Dragon or like a Contra Rippaverse game. I think those can definitely be done for a high five-figure, maybe low six-figure amount, and I think you'd see a lot of people jumping in on something like that for a Rippaverse game because people do love video games, of course, myself included. But I am very hopeful for what the future holds for Rippaworks. But of course, I think they want to do stuff one at a time. And of course, they still want to maintain the comic book release schedule. But that's really it for everything in Rippaland or Rippaverse news. We're still waiting on stuff to be fulfilled. And of course, we haven't had the launch of any new Rippaverse projects. But we do today have the launch of a Rippasend project. That's why this episode is coming out a little bit later than I usually do, because it was launched around 5 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, there was a little bit of an early launch, and then they got it down and they launched it at the right time. But we do have A Daughter's Revenge. This is written by Jay David and Russ Morgan, with art by Eric Hodson, who was the artist for Acromatical Chronics Green, which I reviewed, I believe, sometime last year, or it could have been 24. Whenever I reviewed it, I definitely reviewed it a while ago. And the color is by Big Boy Robo. And of course, you've got free covers here, with the A and the C cover being done by Eric Hodson, and the B cover being done by Irene Strakowski. And I'll zoom up a little bit so you guys can see those covers. Of course, the C cover is a very simple, just skull and crossbones with Vindicta. Then you've got the A and the B covers being definitely a bit more complicated. And this is a 144-page graphic novel with Jonathan Reed, who used to be for the English or the British Navy. He gets basically betrayed and disowned from the Navy, and then he joins up with the pirates to get revenge for his daughter, which I like. That's a pretty basic story. And of course, it's going to be traveling all across the world, and you're going to be on the high seas. So it's going to be a very immersive pirate's tale. And of course, Jay David does have that obsession with pirates, and I think pirates are pretty cool. It's definitely one of the cooler eras of history. Is that time definitely before the steamship, but after the discovery of the New World. So you're thinking late 1600s, early 1700s is probably the peak of the pirate era. Maybe even between let's say 1650 to 1800. That probably era of history is the peak of when people think of pirates, because anytime after that is when the steamship gets invented, and then you just have too much steel in the water for there to be these privateers and pirates. And the idea of sailing the high seas is you have your sailboat and your sails and stuff like that. That's really where the aesthetic is. And once you have the steam engine and that you have these Ironsides, you have these steamboats, it kind of really just nuked the usefulness of those ships, and it just really meant that the seas got much more civilized. Of course, you still have privateers, basically pirates today. There's that movie with the Somali pirates with Tom Hanks, but still, like, it's not as, like, I'd say romanticized as this era of privateering or the pirate's life, what that this story is covering. So I'm excited to see exactly how J. Davis is going to tackle this one. Excited to see what this holds. And of course, this is a #1, so I imagine the intention is to have an ongoing series, or at least a limited series that tells a complete story for Jonathan Reed. But 144 pages, you can definitely get a lot of story told, especially in with comics. That is a lot of content when you're talking in the realm of the comic book. But really all I have for you guys, definitely still pretty light on the Rippaverse news, but it was really cool that Rippasend is still chugging along. Jay David had talked about doing stuff with pirates for a long time, and of course Achromatic Chronicles has like some references to pirates, especially I think like green in the end, or maybe blue if I'm getting my memory correctly. But that is all I have for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Joker is out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.